sports fans? Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to be a crazy and just a fantastic Friday for all of you guys here joining us here on the show. Welcome to the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. Thanks for making us part of your day. Chase, I don't know what's crazier. The fact that week 1 in college football is about to start, and you're about to hear it from the shoe, man. And, I don't know what's going on with the state of Texas. Everything seems to just be happening, and Texas is just all over the whole entire news cycle. It's insanity to me, honestly. But, wow. Blockbuster trade. By the way, just the week, Sean Smith, the former D tackle, he was mentioning about this big trade. Yeah. Now it's officially happened, and there's so much more to break down up onto this trade, because I just have to set the record straight, because let's start with that. Because, listen, I'm 30 years old. I was born in the 90s, okay? And there's nothing that could honestly change my mind or could get me to react, because I've seen all of this all before, okay? And some people, and listen, I'm not trying to single anybody out. I'm just trying to say facts here. But from the age range of 20 to 35, anytime I'm up on social media platforms, man, do all of you like to crash out a lot, okay? This is probably this is the third biggest blockbuster trade that has happened in months. I was there with the Luka trade, and you all lost your marbles. I was there during the Rafael Devers trade. Most of you lost your marbles. And here we are after yesterday, clocking out from my regular job. I will not disclose, but Micah Parsons is traded to the Green Bay Packers. And you crashed all out to where the internet just broke. Okay, I lost service. I lost Wi-Fi. Look, so let's describe about Green Bay. What are you getting with Micah Parsons? First of all, you're getting a generational edge rusher out of Penn State, which is a fact, okay? Micah Parsons is a perennial edge rusher. I don't know exactly what he'll bring to the table with a team like Green Bay, but it sounds to me like their front seven is absolutely loaded and stacked. And that is true, because once you've got him, Rashawn Gary, and you've got a couple other really good front sevens that you can rely on the pass rush, that's where a lot of this stuff is really going to be juicy for a team like Green Bay. And Green Bay's small market, and that's one of the things you really kind of have to understand, and you got to like. And Green Bay, for as small of a market as they are, they definitely do take big swings. So what this is meaning for the Packers is the Packers will be competitive and competent. Okay, that's one. Number two is, if you recall, like Jordan Love was on Micah Parsons' podcast at one point, and they both are tight. And I felt like there were little bits and pieces and sprinkles of seasonings that were coming, kind of moving it, maybe a little bit of some cheese curds, kind of trail that was leading someone like Micah Parsons to come to Green Bay. There were little snippets. But what's great about it is that the two of them, they share the same agent. So all of this is why I always say all the time in the show, life is not a coincidence. Okay. Choices and things happen for a reason. So this is not coincidental for me. It felt a lot like there was a cheese curd type of trail led involved because the two of them have the same agents, and now they're both in Green Bay. So to me, Micah Parsons is a perennial edge rusher. The only thing that really concerns me, few things. Number one is I watched the body language of Micah Parsons in Dallas. I don't know if a lot of that is just personally him or he was just completely done with Dallas. I can understand that too. But Micah is unapologetically him. And he stands on business with that, with a podcast, with, he even talked about, political stuff. I won't get into the middle of it, but there's a reporter out there, and I'll get into that in a second. But basically saying, like, he stands on business of what he thinks and what he says. You could feed him this information, and you could feed him a lot of this pep talk. But he's going to be the one that's going to be making his own decision. And the whole point of this is that all it came down to was more negotiations. The agent was involved, and Jerry wasn't going to want to do it. So Green Bay gets an edge rusher. The front seven is stacked. The only thing that scares me is a few reasons. You stack up a front seven like this, and this is what's going to surprise Chase too. You stack up a front seven for a few reasons. Number one is you're inducing pressures. You're getting a really good edge rusher. But at the same time, who are you trusting in your secondary outside of Xavier McKinney? You've already lost Jair Alexander in Baltimore. Now, they did draft Bo Melton, but if you're going to roll the dice on a youngster, and I watched the viral video, okay, of a receiver converting to corner, and I was not a fan of what I saw. I mean, even if you come away with past defenses, it kind of made me scared. But this is the only reason why that you would front load a front seven like this, is because there's a part of your secondary you're trying to eliminate. You are trying to crunch every time in the pocket that the quarterback would have so he doesn't get comfortable and throws the long shot down the field. That's the only reason that you would do this. But for Green Bay, it makes them competitive, competent, well-ran organization. Doesn't really have a whole lot of drama up in the locker room, but it will be interesting. We'll talk more about that. But I want to shift to Dallas, where Dallas fans are feeling this again. I feel like Dallas is just absolutely traumatized in the year of 2025 because they've lost Luka Doncic and now they've lost Micah Parsons. But let me tell you something from here. This is what I understand with this, is that Dallas and Jerry Jones is a very proud organization, and they stand on business with that. I mean, if I'm literally as old as Jerry Jones, I would probably feel the same way. I would want to feel proud of the accomplishments that I've done, striking gold on oil and then purchasing the Cowboys. Maybe could have purchased another team too, but that's all fine and dandy. But the Cowboys know and they realize there are several different positions they have to fix. Like the run defense needs to be one of them. So the Dallas Cowboys in this trade, they got 2 first-round picks and they've got Kenny Clark. So they're walking in the next 2 years with 4 first-round picks here. 2 in 26 and 2 in 27. There's about a few things that can happen here, but I want to go with the Micah situation. Jerry opened up and he basically said, and I do have the snippet on this, but basically said he could have and he should have paid Micah. And that was back up in April. But we all understand certain businesses work differently than the other. So Jerry Jones, after just saying this, he was up and on a show, on a podcast. Actually, he was up and in an interview talking about this. And of course, it's clear to every single Cowboy fan, right? And they needed to stop the run. So Jerry Jones is trying to explain with this whole situation with Micah, and there's a few of these quotes that were up here, but here was the snippet on Micah.
Micah, the contract that I offered him back in April. He flew in from out of the country, wanted to come right in. I said, no, get you a night's sleep and come on in the next day. When I did that, we offered him a contract to come play for the Dallas Cowboys, and it was a good one. Okay. Now, it was more guaranteed than what I've been reported that was here now. And again, nothing in the world am I criticizing Micah about at all. That was every bit his right. And Micah's never been anything but so pleasant for me to be around. I want to be real clear about it, not that it implies that it's not. Things are good here. Things are good here. We have just decided that it was in the best interest of our team to take the consideration that we have. We appreciate his 4 years, but we can take that consideration. When I offered Mike, but we can take that consideration and we can win in our minds more than had we gone the other route and signed him. That's not a negative on Micah. That's just unique to our circumstances.
So, again, whether you like or you don't like Jerry Jones, okay, he's a businessman than most of these owners. Okay, he understands the game. And with Micah, he is a perennial player. Every time when I heard this crash out from everybody outside up in social media, they all think that the Cowboys lost, they're done, they're not quite the same team. Slow down. First of all, Jerry knows who he traded away. And Jerry approached with the contract, with the guarantee. Micah Parsons, and he's absolutely right about one part. Micah is his own person. Okay, so you make your own personal decisions and your own personal choices. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the player whether he wants to sign or not. And when Micah brought in the agent, Jerry didn't want to end up dealing with the agent. He wanted to deal with the player up front. Now, I mean, back then, businesses have changed over the years where it's different than just a handshake type of guaranteed deal. I want to be able to see the fine print. I want to be able to see exactly with what's there. And that's the one thing in businesses you always have to look out for. I mean, everybody's got an agent. All these players got agents because they are there to do the negotiating factor of these contracts. They don't want to deal with it. They just want to play football. And Micah knows and plays football. No matter how many times that you look up into his podcast and such. But Jerry made a decision that he was going to roll with. Yes, Cowboy fans are going to be pissed. They're going to feel the same exact way that they felt about Luka getting traded away from Dallas to go to LA, and they wanted Nico Harrison's head on a silver platter. But you got 2 first-round picks, 4 of them total in 2 years, and Kenny Clark, who only even if he's 30 years old, is a very good run stuffer. You needed help with that because that run defense was god-awful, and I'm sure Chase could pull up the numbers up on that. But the Dallas Cowboys run defense was absolutely atrocious and horrifying. But this is why you made this deal. Now, there are a few factors that are up and into it, but we're talking about it all day. Chase, life is not a coincidence. These things happen for a reason. And again, everybody's business models is different. But does it work for some? Sure. Does it work for others? Not all the time. But we know Jerry Jones is going to yap. Okay, we know he is. He's going to be up and on media. He's going to be up and on the televisions. He's got his documentary out about the Cowboys. But at the end of the day, like Micah got the deal he wanted. 4 years, $188 million, with about upwards of 120 to 130 guaranteed. So he's getting more. And this is what's crazy to me, is because a small market like Green Bay, Wisconsin, who can honestly just afford that because they saved up a lot. And
they did. They really did a lot.
They really did. And this is the thing. Because they're such a young roster, they have yet to pay some guys. They've already paid Jordan Love. They've already paid Rashawn Gary. now they're paying Micah Parsons up for 4 years, which, by the way, $47 million per year. That screwed up the market for edge rushers. He got
and how many times have the
$6 million
Cowboys been trying to get the defensive tackle position correct? Like they tried to get Mozzie Smith a couple years ago. Mozzie Smith was projected a late first, early second round pick, and he was projected to be one of the best defensive tackles in the league over the next few years, and he has not amounted to anything in the NFL. And in a division where you have Saquon Barkley and stuff, and it's hard to stop him, you need that presence up the middle. And I understand that edge rushers are very valuable in terms of getting sacks, but edge rushers don't mean anything if they can't stop the run. Like the thing is, you got guys like Myles Garrett who's able to stop the run and get the sack and stuff when you need to and make a big play happen. But you don't have that presence up the middle for the Cowboys. And that's why getting Kenny Clark was such a big deal.
Well, I think that's what's the difference is because think about this. The Browns got Mason Graham up front.
Yeah.
And they also had one other D tackle so that the shift and the collapse would be a lot more simplified because then that allows someone like Myles Garrett could just go up and run on the outside. I mean, look at the Bengals, for instance. I mean, you got a modern day Mark Gastineau and Trey Hendrickson, who's just giving you the sacks up and on the outside, but they could not stop the run.
And then you got Shamar Stewart, basically another Trey Hendrickson. But what happened to the Bengals defense when they got rid of their run stuffer and TJ Reader? The very next year, he goes to the Lions, and the Lions' run defense becomes very good. Look at how the defensive line was healthy and everything. Yeah. Now the Bengals go from having a mid-tier defense to like at 12 or 13 to having one of the most bottom-tier defenses.
Look at how good that the Rams' defensive line is going to look like. I mean, they added Poona Ford, who was actually really impressive with the Chargers last season, which got them to a number one scoring defense, and now you're paired up with Braden Fisk and Jared Verse, and you got Byron Young, and you have a lot of really good. They're young,
and that's the Vikings when they added Javon Hargrave on the defensive line,
and now you just added Jonathan Allen, who's not only is he just up in age, but he's still capable enough of playing up to the position. But you know what though? You do have a steal in Andrew Van Ginkel who can go up in my positions and go get
young Dallas Turner as well.
Yes, so they can go and stop the run. This is why I think, Dallas realized, I know Dallas realized that they were just terrible up and on the run. They were not doing themselves any favors up from there. And that's why Jerry mentioned what he did. So again, we're going to be talking about this pretty much the entirety of the day, but I will talk some college up and into this. But
not to mention getting the 2 first-round picks. I mean, there's 3 teams this next year with 2 first-round picks, and Dallas is the only one that has 2 over the next 2 years. And not to mention that Dak's contract will be up in 2027 by the end of the season.
That's right.
If they decide to use a first-round pick, since they got 2 of them, and you got guys the likes of probably Arch Manning, Dylan Raiola, and like so much DJ Lagway. Like they could use one of those picks to get their guy of the future, have them sit behind Dak for a year, and then the very next year start them and have the Cowboys, have a lot of money coming in. They've got their defense built and stuff because of these 2 first rounders. Their offensive line's really young. Now you've got all of the money in the world to pay upcoming free agents that are coming in and build from the ground up. They're making the smart move.
So this is where I'm going to discuss this. We're going to take a break up and onto this one, but you all are going to be shocked about this when I end up discussing with you what it is that the Cowboys plan, because there's going to be a 3-year pact here, okay, before we even get to the discussion of who really won the trade. It's going to be 3 years until we really figure that out. Mm-hmm. So by that point, Dallas is buying themselves some time. So we'll talk about that here up and over the break. And then we'll talk about, too, because, I mean, I was at Sportsbook last night with the wife getting some food and all the rest of it. And that god-awful embarrassment by Boise State just tells you how good Ashton Jeanty really was with this team. I mean, that was just god-awful, and I could feel a really bad down year. I mean, I'm disappointed. It's hard, and, it is what it's going to be. But, It just happens for a lot of these programs. But Colorado is playing tonight against Georgia Tech. But, I mean, Georgia Tech, that defense is going to be something else. I don't even know if Colorado is going to be able to hold all of that. But we'll talk more about that coming up. But one thing to really note, we're already just about to play. We've already got college ball going on right now as week 1 is absolutely ecstatic. Chase is going to be seeing it from the shoe, and week 1 is going to be outstanding. I mean, just watching Arch Manning, what he's going to look like, Texas, Ohio State, that's going to be such an amazing game. But because with the season starting, this is where it's the year again where BetUS has you covered on everything, sports book, your daily fantasy picks, and all of your daily contests going on with Major League Baseball, NFL around the corner, college football. It's going to be stacked and loaded up and on our sports books this year. And with BetUS, as usual, they give you the best deal possible for over 30 years with their award-winning sports book. And also, when you sign up with $50 or more in your deposits in the first 3 deposits, that guarantees you up to 200% up in bonuses. That matches up to $2,000 in contest winnings. So the contest you play in and your first time signing up, your very own account manager to give you the best expertise and analysis, and also the opportunity to win big in these contests. BetUS is geared up for the NFL and college football season, and Chase and I are all about it. Go on to BetUS.com, sign yourself up. Link is in the description here on the show. BetUS, where the NFL and college football season begin.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket, and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com, and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
So, of course, after the trade, lots and lots of stories coming out about Micah Parsons and his timeline with the Dallas Cowboys. We'll get more into that. Yes, Micah Parsons is officially a Green Bay Packer. So we're picking up where we left off with Chase and I am talking about the Dallas Cowboys. They get 2 first-round picks, 4 of them total, 2 in 26, 2 in 27, and they get Kenny Clark, the defensive tackle up front, to help against the run. So I was thinking about this, and I talked with a lot of people that are just about close to the team, and we were breaking down some scenarios and situations, because this will be a 3-year pact to understand who truthfully won the trade. And look, I'm not about winners and losers here, but I am about, did you solidify the trade enough to where you got a lot of draft picks that hit? So what it sounds like to me, and I thought about the same exact thing, because tomorrow Texas is taking on Ohio State at the shoe, and everybody's eyes is on Arch Manning. Now, everybody that knows, Arch has a great mindset. He's out there blazing his own trail. He's not trying to do what his grandfather did. He's not trying to do with what Peyton Manning did. He's not there to try to do what Eli Manning did. He's out there to blaze his own trail. What it sounds like to me is we may not see Arch Manning into the draft until 27. So what I thought about with the Dallas Cowboys, because they will have 2 first-round picks in 26, and depending on the landing spots, because what you are trying to evaluate is a few things, is number one, their draft pick, Donovan Ezaraku from Boston College, that kid's really good. And I've heard a lot of positive things from him. Number two is that there's also a potentiality where there could be more moves in play. Because right now you're dealing with Dak. You've got CeeDee Lamb. They're both on premium contracts. And you just got George Pickens, who I still believe will have a Cortland Sutton type season. 75 to 80 catches, over 1,000 yards receiving, and 7 touchdown receptions. That's enough to give you a 3-4 year deal. And that's going to do the Cowboys a favor from there. So with those first round picks, what I'm thinking is this. I'm going to watch very closely this year in college football of who my best D tackles are going to be. My top 10s. Because that's what the Cowboys are going to be evaluating up from there. DeMarvion Overshown is making significant progress throughout the entire recovery process. So that's a good sign from there. But you don't want to rush him out there very quickly. Okay? You got Kenny Clark. You got Donovan Ezaraku, the rookie. That'll only at least give you enough time to evaluate. The Cowboys, and I said this before, Washington's probably going to finish up at second place because to me, if Washington wins the division, that just continues the streak of no team in the NFC East that has gone back-to-back in division titles. Okay, but maybe Philadelphia changes that narrative. But Washington, after they got the deal done with Terry McLaurin, they are a playoff team. I don't think they will have the upbringing of like they did last year when they made it into the conference championship. But they are capable of winning a playoff game. I trust Jaden Daniels with that. So Cowboys are probably going to finish third, but they will probably be at least the middle of the pack. So by this point, hear me out on this. In 2026, you're going to be looking for a few things. You're going to either look for a defensive tackle, the best one in the country, or maybe potentially because in the backfield, you've got Trayvon Diggs and you got Deron Bland. To me, I'd be going in and I'd be keeping my eye on that kid at Texas, Mohammed. Because if I'm watching Jahdae Barron in a stacked Denver defense and Jahdae Barron looks really, really good, then I'd be trusting that the DB's coach at Texas is absolutely ecstatic and outstanding. And that's where I would be taking someone like Mohammed from Texas, because then I've got a very good secondary on top of that. Now in 27, which that's the year that Arch Manning would be potentially going into with DJ Lagway and another quarterback, is if Arch Manning is every bit of who he is, I would be trading those picks in 27 to maybe potentially get the number 1 overall pick. Because you're going to be inquiring about phone calls for Dak, and somebody is going to want a quarterback. So at that point, that's the long-term solution. Because right now, Green Bay's on the short term, and Dallas is on the long term. Long term, they're building up this roster. So they just told you they're not rebuilding. They're just rebooting this thing. Because no organization that makes that much $1 billion a year will tell you they're rebuilding. They'll be rebooting more than anything. That's the term they'll use. Because rebuild, they lose their marbles. They crash out. So they'll reboot. I feel like if you go, and here's another point. There's even, so the secondaries, right? I mentioned about Mohammed. What about Caleb Downs? Maybe Caleb Downs would be an interesting situation too. So you'd be looking at those two secondary guys and a defensive tackle for 26. And then in 27, you could trade those picks to go and maybe potentially get Arch Manning if it's close enough. Okay, but that's what I would do if I'm Dallas. You are trying to now solidify this trade that will make up for a perennial player that you just traded away. I mean, the closest thing to to Herschel Walker more than anything else. I mean, it'll be different, but to me, if I'm Dallas, yes, it hurts, just like it did with the Luka trade. But don't just don't bury your head in the sands with this thing. I know Jerry sometimes can really be too much on people, but just understand business decisions like this don't just happen for nothing. Okay? There's always a reason for it, but maybe that's exactly where we go with it. Let's get to Chase with the news.
And now, here we go. Hey everyone, it's story time. This is the hot press.
All right, look, is that not a good proposal if I'm looking at this from a GM standpoint? Because, again, I want to get the best defensive tackle in the country, one of the top 3, top 4. Then maybe potentially beef up my secondary, because here's the thing. Are you going to trust Deron Bland with his availability and just his skill set, and even with Trayvon Diggs, or are you going to go and get somebody like Caleb Downs or Mohammed, the one from Texas? Because to me, I'm leaning more of the kid in Texas, because if I watch Jahdae Barron this year and he really explodes with Denver's defense, that DB's coach that they got up in Texas right now really did a great job. That's the one thing that's the one thing that I would be focusing on if I'm Dallas. You got to focus on stopping the run. You got to be able to now focus on getting skilled players in the secondaries to now go one-on-one against these receivers. And listen, you're not going to get another offensive lineman until later because you want depth pieces, because this young front is going to figure it out. They're going to build the years. So that's the part that I really am looking forward to. But that's what I would do with this. And I've talked to many Cowboy fans, and a lot of them all just became optimistic and really open-minded with that. But that's a question mark, right? What is Arch Manning going to look like?
I mean,
nobody knows.
It's going to be interesting to see what he does tomorrow against Ohio State and everything. Because, we may be young and may have lost a lot of players, but we still have one of the better secondaries in the league. Sanchez is coming in as one of the top corner recruits, if not the top corner recruit and everything.
By the way, I'm taking that game for the Buckeyes, because here's another thing to keep in mind. That whole offensive line for Texas is new.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
You lose arguably your best offensive lineman this past draft in Calvin Banks. And then you lose what was it? Connor, or I think Williams and stuff.
Yes.
Later on in the draft.
And Williams, yep.
But I agree with you with the Cowboys 100%. I think that they should go corner rather than safety, because granted they do need safety help, but like corners are a good cornerstone piece of your defense, and you can never ever have too many corners in the National Football League, especially with how injured they end up getting. And I think that going after a defensive tackle, building the defense would be the strong suit,
and here's
at least for this draft. And then go into 2027 with your second first round pick. And like you said,
and
trade
throw in something a little bit more spicy, because here's the thing. How much do the Cowboys have this year? $40 million. They will have $50 million next year. And you know who you can afford if these guys hit and you get these picks? Go get Trey Hendrickson. Because then you got a very good matching partner next to Donovan Ezeraku. Yeah. And it's good because Demarion Overshown is going to come back healthy and sturdy, and he'll be ready to play. You will have a very good front seven there for these next 2 years. So, and that's the thing is Trey only got the pay raise. He didn't get a long term. He's looking for somebody else to get a suitor, because Cincinnati, unfortunately, as frugal as they are, they gave him the pay raise, but they're like, but you're going to have to get a long-term somewhere else. So they at least diminish that so it doesn't create distractions. But if I'm the Cowboys, I'd be making a phone call to Trey.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really would.
Let's get into some news. We've got the Red Sox officially releasing one of their longtime starting pitchers in Walker Buehler, who's had a phenomenal career with the Red Sox in the times that he's been there.
Well, Walker Buehler, actually, he just signed the 1 year. But what I've been told, and I think this is also something to keep in mind of come the postseason, because how many games are they out, or are they in postseason contention right now?
They're very close to that wild card spot, but they're not that. If they lose a few more games, then they'll be out of contention for it.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So they're 3.5 games out, actually.
Yeah.
So what I was told is that Walker had an issue with pitch location and some of the mechanics. He had such a hard time, and not only that, but he was fighting injuries. To me, the Dodgers would definitely love to bring him back because he'll be on the cheap. Mm-hmm. So at that point, you're now getting depth and up and into your bullpen, because that's what the Red Sox did. They took him out of the rotation because he was struggling so bad. Then they put him up into the in the bullpen, and even with that, they didn't quite make it work. But they do have a very good starting three, so it at least buys them time to really get somebody up and in, and then be able to really address up pitching, because you cannot go wrong with pitching, at least when you get into the postseason. But it's hard for Walker Buehler.
It really is.
It really is. So, but I could see the Dodgers reuniting him back.
I could too, and like with the way that the Dodgers pitching staff and like pitching coach has been, it could be a great reunion for them. Moving on to the topic of pitching still.
Yep.
The Guardians pitching coach is officially going to retire this next offseason, and they have already found the replacement for the pitching coach, and I love their choice of who it is. It is going to be former Cy Young Award winner Corey Kluber to take over the reins as the pitching coach for the Cleveland Guardians, and I think that is a phenomenal move by the clubhouse. And
that's not a bad idea, because I mean, Corey Kluber, who's been like, he's organically gone through this organization before, and the display of dominance that he had, what was it, between, because I know 2016 was dominant.
2012 to about 2017 or 2018.
Yeah, that's on. Those years were fun to watch Corey Kluber. So to have him there with mechanics, and especially helping out a lot of these youngsters, because here's the thing: you lost Shane Bieber to Toronto, which I know kind of was a nail in the coffin there, but it's not like they're not completely out of their contention when it comes to the starting rotation. It's just having to figure out the small things. And I think that's what Corey Kluber can do, because number one, you're going to have a guy that's going to throw you heaters, but it's more about getting pitch control, velocity, and locations. And I think that's what's going to be really, really important, especially too. Like, I mean, I watched him throw these sliders every time, and they were just completely deadly and lethal. Like, that was what was one of his number one things. And same with the breaking pitches, like his changeups and such.
Oh my gosh, his cutter was one of the nastiest,
and it was insane
in baseball. It was absolutely insane. We got two more pieces of news here to cover.
Yep.
One of them is that Rob Manfred has been in talks with finalizing a deal, and it's going to probably happen by the end of the baseball season, to get a stadium built and a team put in Salt Lake City for the future for baseball. Because we talked about the last show, 4 specific locations in Nashville, Portland, Orlando, and Salt Lake City, and also Charlotte, for potential landing spots for an expansion team. And Rob Manfred said that by 2029, he wants to have 2 new expansion teams in the MLB. And right now, he's working on trying to finalize a deal to get a stadium and a team put in place for the 2027 season for Salt Lake City. So we're going to see if that actually comes to fruition, and see if it actually happens, or if it's going to fall through and we're going to have to wait.
Yes, because so here's the deal. I was talking about this with people when it came to potentially NFL expansions, because when you saw the amount of roster cuts that came in, that's going to open the door for the NFL to come to you, because Utah is expanding. All right. I mean, once you got the hockey team out of Arizona to go there, I mean, that's going to be successful, because I mean, I've heard about great things about the ownership there with the Jazz, and when they ended up taking over the ownership here, they really did some great things. I mean, concessions were cheaper, and it's inexpensive, and it's fun to be there in some of these hockey games. So when you build a culture and a fan base like that, now you're adding in baseball in the middle of the mix. I have to see how much generated attendance comes through when the Salt Lake City Bees, the Angels is affiliate, when they come in to town, and how much they generate, because eventually you are going to see that. And Utah, much like Colorado, great atmosphere, similar conditions, and you're never going to have to worry about certain things. And it's beautiful. I mean, I've camped there several times up from the St. George and the Cedar City area, and it's great. Fishing's great. Weather can be a little bit chilly and cold depending on when you go to the winter months, but not a bad place to be at. Yeah. I mean, right along the region, by the way, from there to Idaho, and there, it's a fantastic place. It's great.
It's definitely going to be interesting, and Montreal's still an option as well, because they've kept the stadium that used to be there intact and been keeping renovations.
The old Expos.
Just in case
I'm down
baseball comes back and everything. So if you can get a chance to get the Montreal Expos back into the MLB and everything, and have 2 Canadian teams, that would be insane.
You know what? Do us all a favor. Bring back the Seattle Supersonics and bring back the Montreal Expos, and I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
And now the last piece of news that we have, obviously, with the way that the Browns roster is set up, with you had 4 quarterbacks. Now you're at 3 with the finalized roster, Shedeur Sanders being the 3rd string quarterback. Yep. We have had updated videos of Deshaun Watson working out and everything. And the coach, the GM, and the owner were at his latest workout, saying like he's been progressing very well, but he has started off the season on the PUP list. And a lot of fans and other people are worried that he's going to be back halfway through the season and start playing again. I've been telling them not to worry, because you don't come back off of your second Achilles tear and having surgery in January and then be able to play this upcoming season. It's not going to happen. He's going to remain on the PUP the entire season. They're going to get their insurance money, and then they're going to cut him next offseason. Your owner does not come out and say, we had a big swing and miss, and then you draft 2 rookies, and then you're going to come back and say, oh, by the way, we're going to start Deshaun Watson like halfway through the season.
Yeah, I don't believe that either. I think at the end of the day, like, they knew what they were getting into. And like I said, they don't draft and develop quarterbacks very well. This is why that they did what they did when it came to getting Joe Flacco, because every time when it comes to this situation, this is what they do. So, again, and you know what's funny is, I'll read this up to you when we're done with the news, but SI came out with projections of what these rookie quarterbacks are going to do. And you'll be surprised, because it's just really, really interesting stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I just think, I know with what they're trying to do, they don't want to make the same mistake like they've done in the past. But then at the same time, don't get caught in the media mix of things, because that's when mistakes happen. And we know Jimmy Haslam to be like the type of meddling owner that will do some sort of things that can tend to piss Cleveland fans off. But what's expected of this is, just give Shedeur Sanders the keys to the Lambo. Seriously. Just give him the keys to it. Don't wreck it. That's all you really got. You just got to.
I like what they're doing with Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, because
I do too.
They have messed up in the past where they've rushed the quarterback out way too early and, pressured him into, all right, you are now that guy. You are now going to take the keys, and you are going to lead this franchise to victory and to success.
Exactly.
And Kevin Stefanski kind of stood on business when he was sitting there saying, I'm committed to the development of these guys. And I think that the best thing for Gabriel and Sanders, and here's what I told somebody the other day. I'm like, I think what they're going to do is they are going to sit Gabriel and Sanders this year. And what they're going to do is they're going to play both of them next season. And then going into the 2027 season where you have like a DJ Lagway, a Arch Manning potentially, and a Dylan Raiola and multiple others. Now you're going to see a full season where they both sat on the bench, they both learned, they both understand the playbook, and now you're going to get to see, do we have our franchise quarterback on the roster, or do we go into the 2027 draft and draft a new guy and make him our guy?
Yeah, I mean that's ultimately what you want to do, because you, like I said, 65% of the league whiff on franchise quarterbacks. You don't want to be the one that ends up whiffing on a quarterback, because then, like I tell everybody this, and we know this to be true, because franchise quarterbacks simplify a lot of things. But we also know the construction of your offensive line is also important, but that's as long as you have the franchise quarterback to be able to protect him. So, but it simplifies a lot of things, because now you can go get a weapon. You can go get a run game. You can go get an offensive lineman. You could probably end up getting defensive players. Whatever the case may be.
2 first-round picks, you can get your safety that you've been needing, and you can start building this offensive line by a younger age, getting a guard to fill in for Joel Bitonio, a great starting left tackle, somebody to fill in on that offensive line and go young.
Yeah. Yes. That's my one thing that I would end up doing as well. Good stuff. Chase with the news.
And now, here we go. Hey everyone, it's story time. This is the hot press.
Well, I was thinking about this last night, and I never really talked a whole lot about it, but that game against Boise State and South Florida was just god awful and embarrassing. I mean, it looked like I was watching a bunch of Quentin Johnstons all over the field. Drop pass after drop pass, overthrows by Maddox Madsen. I mean, they got completely clobbered. And it just goes to show you this. Ashton Jeanty is really going to be a one-of-a-kind piece. It's funny because a lot of people that evaluated his talent skill, so many people believe that Ashton Jeanty kind of has at least an upbringing of what LaDainian Tomlinson was in 2001. Here's a reason. When you recall the 2001 draft, because that was Michael Vick and LaDainian Tomlinson, okay, LT was a hot shot out of TCU. But everybody all looked at the one kid from Virginia Tech. Okay. It was a hard decision. But the Chargers, think about the division that they were in. Because I recall, I think that was because Priest Holmes started coming around the building when it came to Kansas City. Okay. And remember how the Chiefs used to be? They gave hell to a lot of the teams in the AFC West. All right. And this is outside of Denver, which Denver had their spurts, especially when you ended up having like Brian Greasy and John Elway and a couple others. Like, you had those upbringings. Okay. But the Chargers were needing something different. And they dealt with a bunch of different quarterbacks. And that was when LaDainian Tomlinson came around the board. It shocked a lot of people. They were like, running back? We need that? Well, look what happened. You dealt with Ryan Leaf, who was arguably the greatest bust of a quarterback out of Washington State in the same draft class as Peyton Manning. And you go get a run game, because the whole point of this is it's about building confidence, because then guess who they drafted later? A kid out of Purdue who's now a Hall of Famer and got a Super Bowl, in Drew Brees. That's who they drafted. They wanted to test. The run game would be efficient. and it would help to build confidence for the quarterback. Okay. Would Ashton Jeanty literally look like that? I don't know. But what I know is that after watching that Boise State game last night, he really served a true importance. They had a really good run game. The offense was a little bit more simplified because it gave Maddox Madsen time in the pocket and confidence for him to throw. But, man, when I watched those receivers, Chase, I'm telling you, it made me miss the days of Titus Young and Austin Pettis when I literally watched that game. Guys are dropping balls left and right, fumbleitis everywhere on the field, and South Florida. And by the way, their defensive front, after they lost the one edge rusher that the Lions drafted, that defensive front is god-awful. I mean, I thought with Boise being put on the map, I mean, they got physically tested against Penn State. Don't get me wrong. They did. But I thought after putting them up and into the map in national television, okay, I thought this would have at least entertained the idea. Maybe not yet, but maybe it could entertain the idea once they're in the Pac-12 that they could start getting some good players. But the Pac-12 is going to be really interesting. It's not going to be the same as it once was when you had your Oregons and your Washingtons and your USCs, all of them. But they should have moved into the Pac-12 years ago because it seemed like they were the one physical team that could really shake up things in the Pac-12. Really could. But, yeah, embarrassing. All right, you're going to love this. So, Sports Illustrated came out with a projected list of rookie quarterbacks, all right, and what they're going to end up putting together stat-wise. So we're starting with the first. Cam Ward, 3,200 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, 11 picks, and a 61 completion percentage. That's interesting because to me, I'm like 61%. Are you sure this is Cam Ward or Cam Newton you're talking about? I'm like, what the hell? Like, okay. My big thing with the Cam Ward situation, and I really do feel like, and I know it's going to piss a lot of Denver fans off, but my opinion with Cam Ward is I think Cam Ward might shock people in Denver. It usually always does in week one. Could you imagine if you got Cam Ward throwing for over 300 passing yards and he's got 4 tutties and no picks in week one? And he torched up arguably one of the best defenses on paper. That the entire fantasy football like these leagues are going to be losing their minds because they took Denver, over a lot of other teams. But it does happen. So I'm not going to go into it yet, but here's where I'm skipping over one. But here's this. Jackson Dart, 13 starts, 2,700 passing yards, 16 tutties, 9 interceptions, and a 62 completion percentage. I could see that be a little bit accurate, except for the completion spots. Because if I thought about it, Brian Dable's a very smart coach. Okay. And what he did with Josh Allen after 2 really horrendous years, and when he first got into the league, really cleaned up, refined a lot of his potential, and now Josh Allen's a very good quarterback. Jackson Dart's going to have a similar upbringing. Now, many people, like some Giants fans, have been saying, I don't want Jackson Dart to start this year, and I get that, and he's not going to end up starting. But he will come into a situation, and I said this for a lot of rookie quarterbacks, between weeks 6 to 8, that's where the quarterbacks usually will change. Who knows how Russell Wilson's going to look like, if he's even the Russell Wilson of the NFC again. But my big thing is because Jackson Dart, you come into a situation where you're cleaning up, refining your skill set because you made a lot of mistakes in college at Ole Miss. I mean, that's what happens when you're up and into a Lane Kiffin offense. So that might actually be interesting. That might change a bit. And then my next quarterback up here, Tyler Shuck, 10 starts, about 1,900 yards, 13 passing touchdowns, 11 picks, and 60 completion percentage. This looks like a dumpster fire for New Orleans. I don't really trust this stuff, and I don't think Tyler Shuck is really going to have that kind of upbringing. But then again, this is why I say New Orleans could be in a position where if they really are top notch, they could reunite Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU if that became the case. Moving forward, Jalen Milroe, he won't have starts at quarterback technically, but he would have 119 passing yards, 5 total touchdowns on the ground for 75% completion. Now, they did say Mike McDonald has a couple of interesting packages for Jalen Milroe. They're going to probably end up using his legs first and then maybe go and throw a few pass plays here and there. Now, this is what's going to be really interesting for Chase. Chase, I'm sure Chase is going to be ready for this. So Dylan Gabriel, 2 starts, 268 passing yards, 3 touchdown passes, 3 picks, and 60 completion percentage. That's what they're giving him. Hey, that, like I keep telling people, this is your quote-unquote winning quarterback, all right? And you get 2 starts? So then now let's go into the next quarterback. Shedeur Sanders, 1 start, 179 passing yards, 1 tutty, 1 pick, and a 59% completion percentage. Now do you see the look on Chase's eyes in the background? That is absolutely atrocious. Okay, I will hear you off here for a second when I finish this up because I know you got things to say about that because I completely disagree with that Shedeur Sanders thing. But here's a quarterback, and I actually believe this wholeheartedly. J.J. McCarthy, and I've been talking about Minnesota for the last a couple of days now here up and on the show because everybody thinks Minnesota don't have a quarterback. Well, guess what? Here's what SI ended up projecting. In 16 starts, 3,700 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 5 picks, 68% completion percentage. Don't you dare tell me that's not a quarterback. Like, do you realize SI saw something with J.J. McCarthy that none of you did? I saw it. Chase has heard me yap about it for days. I'm telling you, Adam Thielen, when coming into this Minnesota roster, was not a mistake. Neither is it something that people are thinking that, like, what's the point of that? He's old. He's injury prone. He is serving up the timeline in which Jordan Addison has his suspension. Once he's back, Thielen, Addison, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Mason, and Aaron Jones, and they address 2 offensive linemen with 1 coming back in Christian Darrisaw. Are you kidding me? And you think Minnesota don't have a quarterback? Like, yes, they're going to have to play Micah Parsons twice a year now in Green Bay. But if you give McCarthy enough time in the pocket and you give him a healthy enough run game, and there's built-in confidence here, you don't think Minnesota can win that division? Like, this is what's crazy. After that Micah trade, I thought about it, but I didn't pivot. I'm kind of missed on one part. I think Green Bay would make the playoffs. After that, Green Bay would probably swap out with, because I still feel like Atlanta could be competent enough to make the playoffs. But I think I might swap out one of them, and this is what's hard about this, is I've got Seattle, and then I've got Washington. That's hard. It's hard to swap out either one of those teams. People would say swap out Atlanta, but I don't know. Michael Penix is going to have a heck of a season. Yeah, I've been telling people this a lot. It's like, this season, this is why I believe the jump for J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix is going to happen.
Yeah. A lot of people are underestimating JJ, and I don't like it.
Yeah, and that SI comparison right there, that projection is 110% accurate, and they are seeing with what I'm seeing. Great duo run game. Offensive line is going to be competent and healthy. Defensively, I don't even need to get into more details, but Brian Flores really made that defense look like something. Okay. And that's where I think Minnesota will not win 14 games, but they're competent to win 12. Okay. They'll go 12-5, win that division. And I think Green Bay got themselves 11-6, maybe a 12-5 tie. Okay. And that's just not, this is even after the Micah Parsons deal.
Yeah.
But it's because the secondary is shaky to me. That's the only reason why. Chicago's going to end up last because they're building consistency and chemistry first. That's what Ben Johnson's doing.
I don't know.
I get it.
I think that they could finish third or even second in the division.
They could. But that's why I've heard a lot of good things from their offensive coordinator in Detroit. Like, Detroit's not missing Ben Johnson. That's what they're saying. But I will believe that when I look at the first 5 weeks. Okay, but they do have very good talent. That's the one thing I don't want to take away from them. But, yeah, I want to go back to that. To me, they somewhat got Dylan Gabriel right, but they completely just disregarded Shedeur Sanders so badly that I'm like, really? That many completion percentage for as accurate that he is? I don't understand that. I mean, Dylan Gabriel, that could be as accurate as you could, but yeah.
Yeah.
I was really appalled by that. I liked everything else except for just those. That was the only thing.
I know. I like when you said the one about Shedeur, I was just like,
I'm surprised they didn't even bring up Michael Penix.
With the starting offensive linemen and starting offensive weapons Shedeur would have, like, they really think that it would be that bad? Like, no.
Yeah, no. It would not. And that's why, like, just because Cleveland would probably be up and in the last spot in the AFC North does not mean that that's a bad thing. That just means they're cooking up something that's going to turn out to be a big jump for them in the future. That's what they're building. They got 2 first-round picks next year, thanks to Jacksonville.
Yeah,
and
seriously.
They're going to regret that the minute that they, look, I like Travis Hunter too, but I would not like it a whole lot if you do not have the personnel, because honestly, they're going to regret trading away that pick. That's why I'm like, why not just do a pick swap? Like, if you would have just done a pick swap up from there, I would have never have even talked about it. But to sacrifice a first-round pick, like, just tells you exactly what I think about Jacksonville every single year. By the way, I will have on our social media, I will be bringing out my kick for 3 picks. I was 1 for 2 last weekend. I really thought the over-under was going to hit, man. It went to 45, and I'm like, damn. So there's going to be some spicy games up there. I love the Clemson-LSU game. I'm kind of leaning more Clemson in this game.
I think LSU will come out with it.
But I'll tell you what, though, that defensive front Clemson got, that's going to be pretty interesting to watch against that offensive line of LSU. I think that one might end up becoming a nail-biter. Notre Dame, Miami, in Miami, going to get pretty physical against the Canes. And then, of course, Texas, Ohio State at the shoe. Arch Manning, is he really going to be all worth that hype?
We'll see.
That's the one thing that I'm worried
Losing
about.
Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden and then Gunnar Helm, we're going to see how good that Texas offense will be. I mean, Stark is a good offensive mind and a good offensive play caller, but we're going to see if he can develop Arch into that number 1 overall pick like everybody's claiming.
Yeah. And then Jerry Jones is just going to be all over him. That's what it feels like to me.
That or Jimmy Haslam, because I know that he's best friends with Peyton Manning. So
yeah, with that whole thing with like Nick Saban and, I mean, does that mean that Kevin Stefanski's job is on the line?
We'll see. I mean, if it becomes week 7 and they're 1-7, I could see this being the last year that we see of Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. And here's who I would love to have as our GM and everything. Have him come out of retirement and everything. And with the way that he's gotten their organization back on track and the fact that he was a former player, Ozzie Newsome.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be a fantastic GM. All of the great players that he drafted for Baltimore over the years got their franchise quarterback for them and everything. And he's been a great talent evaluator and a great player to pick talent for football teams. I would love for him to be a GM for the Cleveland Browns.
Well, you know what, though? I mean, it just goes to show you with how healthy and well ran that Baltimore's organization has ran like for so long. I mean, when DaCosta, I mean, everybody up and into that front office, I mean, they've been very competent. They understand like when they see talent and they seek it, they're going to get the best physical players. I mean, that's just how they just know how Baltimore builds. I mean, that's how, I mean, once they got Malachi Starks and Mike Green, like that's highway robbery all the way
Dude,
in.
How do you let the best safety in the draft fall to you and arguably one of the best pass rushers fall? Like, dude, they got Kyle Hamilton and Malachi Starks.
And that's where, you know, it's really interesting.
It's literally a freaking cheat code. I forgot about Starks. But they're literally a freaking cheat code right now.
Well, look,
if they don't make it past the AFC Championship this year, it is truly remarkable.
Yeah. Well, I've heard a lot of things about, you know, John Harbaugh and some of the other stuff, Lamar, and I've heard all
Lamar if they don't make it past the AFC Championship. So,
well, next week. Are you prepared for prime predictions this year? I'm really hoping to go all the way on it.
I want to see that week 2 matchup. Joe Flacco going back to Baltimore and everything for the first time in a while.
All right. Yeah. Gonna be an interesting game though. But yeah, I mean, tomorrow is gonna be great though, but it's gonna be so freaking difficult for some of these games. But I love the lineups though. I really do love it. Texas, Ohio State, LSU, Clemson, and Notre Dame giving it to Miami. Like that is gonna be so good. Yeah. It's gonna be it really is gonna be a fun Saturday, but yeah, maybe you get a chance to kind of, you know, interact with a lot of those diehard Buckeyes up over there. So, yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. All righty, folks, we got to close it up. Yeah, the trade really did get us out of our gourd here for a bit. But yeah, we'll see what Green Bay will look like come the first week. But it should be interesting. With Chase and myself here on the Snake Sports Talk Show, appreciate everybody for being here all week long. And next week is the busiest week, and that's the initial start of where the NFL season is going to be kicking off Thursday, Friday, Sunday. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. Prime predictions will be right up around the corner as well. So with Chase and myself, have a great weekend. Enjoy for a lot of those hard workers out there during Labor Day. Enjoy the Labor Day weekend and be safe. Thank you so much for the amount of work you've put in, guys. You guys have disturbed it. So with Chase and myself, we're out of here, guys. Take care and enjoy the long weekend.